Welcome to Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go. This audio uses AI narration to present our original book analysis. You've chosen to deep dive into Jon Krakauer's Into the Wild.
Oh, yeah.
And that's quite a journey. We're going to unpack why Chris McCandless, this young man who seemingly had it all,
Right.
has decided to walk away from it all and head into the Alaskan wilderness.
It's a story that still has people debating, like, is he a hero or a fool or something in between? Even decades later, Krakauer's book really keeps us thinking.
Right. And the way Krakauer weaves it all together using Chris's own journals, photos, and talks with people who met him along the way.
Yeah.
You really feel like you're on the road with Chris.
You do.
But before we hit the trail,
Okay.
let's rewind to his early life. Krakauer paints a picture of a family with money, but also with some serious undercurrents.
Yeah, it's crucial to understand that backdrop to even begin to grasp Chris's later choices. He had what many would consider a privileged upbringing, but the sense you get is that there were these simmering conflicts beneath the surface.
And then there's that bombshell, right?
Yeah.
Chris uncovers a family secret.
Oh, yeah.
His father's past. That really shakes him up.
Yeah.
And makes you wonder if that was the first crack in his faith in, well, everything.
Yeah, it's like the foundation shifted for him. Suddenly the quote-unquote normal path, the American dream, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
it all seemed hypocritical, maybe even meaningless to him.
So college graduation rolls around.
Yeah.
And instead of celebrating, Chris basically sets off on this radical journey of self-discovery.
He does.
He donates his savings, burns his cash, and vanishes from his family's life. Talk about cutting ties.
He even adopts a new name, Alexander Supertramp. It's like he was determined to shed his old skin and become someone completely new.
And then begins this incredible odyssey across the American West.
Yes.
He meets all kinds of people. Wayne Westerberg, a grain elevator operator, Jan Burrs and Bob, who lived a nomadic life, Ronald Franz, an older man who really took to Chris.
Right.
Each encounter peels back another layer of who Chris was.
What's fascinating is that you see his charm, his intelligence, and his intense idealism.
You do.
But there are also glimpses of his stubborn streak, his difficulty accepting help or advice.
It's like he was so set on proving something,
Right.
even if it meant ignoring practical advice.
Totally.
It makes you wonder if he was running towards something or away from something.
Perhaps both.
Yeah.
There is a definite sense of restlessness in his journey. And then finally, Alaska calls. He meticulously plans his foray into the wilderness, studies maps, reads survival guides, carefully packs his gear.
But even with all that prep,
Yeah.
Krakauer makes it clear that Chris underestimated the raw, brutal reality of the Alaskan wilderness.
He did.
I mean, surviving out there,
Yeah.
that's a whole different ballgame.
Exactly. You can read about surviving off the land.
Right.
But actually doing it is
Yeah.
a whole other challenge.
And then, of course, there's the discovery of the abandoned bus on that remote trail. Fairbanks Bus 142. It became Chris's makeshift home, his refuge. It's where he tried to truly live off the grid, to become one with nature. And sadly, it's also where his story ends.
It's both tragic and poignant. This symbol of freedom and escape becomes his final resting place.
Yeah.
And Krakauer doesn't shy away from the mysteries surrounding Chris's death.
No, he doesn't.
Uh-huh.
Initially, everyone thinks starvation.
Right.
He was inexperienced, couldn't hunt effectively, right? But then Krakauer drops this wild potato seed theory
Oh, wow.
based on what he finds in Chris's journals.
Mm.
Talk about a plot twist.
Yeah. The entries describe Chris's failing health and suggest he might have accidentally eaten toxic seeds, perhaps misidentifying them. It's like a detective story.
Right. Krakauer really lays it all out, the possibility of Swainsonine poisoning from mold on those seeds. Suddenly, the simple narrative of a reckless kid crumbles. It makes you wonder if Chris was a victim of something he couldn't have foreseen.
Exactly. It complicates the whole reckless versus idealist debate. It adds another layer of tragedy to the story, making it clear that there's more to this than meets the eye. And to really understand this story, I think you have to look into Chris's journals.
Yeah.
They're more than just a record of his travels. It's like peering into his soul. They're raw, honest, full of big questions about life and meaning.
He's really wrestling with, I think, what he sees as a hypocritical society and trying to figure out how to live authentically.
Yeah, he was clearly inspired by writers and thinkers like Thoreau, Tolstoy, Jack London.
Yeah.
He carried their books with him, and you can see their influence in his writing.
And it really makes you think about, I think, the books we choose, the ideas that we carry with us, and how they shape our worldview.
Absolutely. And, Chris wasn't just surviving in the wild. He was really searching for something deeper, I think, within himself.
Yeah, and it reminds me of that inscription he left on the bus.
Oh, right.
That quote from Dr. Zhivago.
Yeah.
I wanted movement and not a calm course of existence. I wanted excitement and danger and the chance to sacrifice myself for my love.
Wow.
It's a powerful stuff.
Yeah, it really speaks to that yearning for a life lived on your own terms, a life with intensity and purpose, even if it comes with risks.
And what's interesting is that Krakauer doesn't just observe Chris's story.
Right.
He's deeply connected to it.
He is.
He writes about his own youthful adventures, his own rebellious streak, his own time in the Alaskan wilderness.
Right.
It's like he sees a part of himself in Chris.
Yeah, that personal connection gives the book a whole other dimension. Krakauer isn't just some detached biographer.
Yeah.
He's grappling with the same questions, the same pull of the wild. It makes you wonder, what if his own journey had gone differently?
Yeah, it's almost like he's walking that line between adventure and recklessness alongside Chris.
Totally.
And it makes you think about the choices we make and the thin line between self-discovery and, well, self-destruction.
Absolutely. And, Into the Wild constantly makes you confront those themes of risk and responsibility.
He does.
Chris's story forces you to think about the impact of your choices, not just on yourself, but on the people you care about.
And he clearly loved his family, but there's also this anger, this resentment that comes through in his letters and journals.
Yeah.
It's like he was caught between needing them and pushing them away.
That tension between the need for freedom and the pull of our connections to others is something we all grapple with, I think.
There's that one passage where Krakauer finds a highlighted quote in one of Chris's books.
Oh, okay.
It's from Dr. Zhivago, and it says, "Everything had changed. Suddenly, the tone, the moral climate. You didn't know what to think, whom to listen to. As if all your life you had been led by the hand like a small child, and suddenly you were on your own. You had to learn to walk by yourself."
It's like that coming-of-age moment, realizing you have to figure things out on your own. But for Chris, that figuring things out took him to the extremes.
The wilderness became his testing ground, his way of proving he could stand on his own 2 feet.
Right.
But it's also a stark reminder that even when we strive for self-sufficiency, we're still part of a larger system.
Nature doesn't play favorites.
No.
Not at all.
And the tragic irony of Chris's death, potentially from something as simple as moldy seeds.
Oh, yeah.
It really hits you hard.
Here's this guy who wants to escape the trappings of modern life,
Right.
embrace simplicity and authenticity.
Yeah.
And then he's taken down by something so seemingly insignificant.
It makes you realize how fragile life is, how even with the best intentions, things can go wrong.
Yes.
And it makes you question, what does it all mean? What are we supposed to take away from Chris's story?
That's the power of Krakauer's book. It doesn't give you easy answers. It makes you think. Makes you question your own values, your own relationship with nature, your own definition of a meaningful life.
Yeah, it's a story that stays with you long after you finish the book.
It does.
You keep asking yourself, what would I have done?
Yeah.
What choices would I have made? Yeah, it's like Krakauer saying, look, this isn't just some story
Right.
about a kid who went off the grid.
Yeah.
It's about all of us.
Yeah. It really gets under your skin. It makes you ask yourself, am I living authentically? Am I chasing the right things?
And what I find so brilliant is that Krakauer doesn't just tell you about Chris's journey. He literally retraces Chris's steps.
He does.
He goes to the places Chris went, talks to the people he met.
Right.
He even tries to climb that mountain,
Yeah.
the Devil's Thumb,
Oh, wow.
that Chris attempted to scale in Alaska.
It's immersive journalism at its best. He's not just observing,
Right.
He's experiencing. And that brings a whole other level of depth and understanding to the book.
It's like he's inviting you to walk in Chris's shoes, to feel what he felt.
Totally.
And that's what makes it so powerful.
Yeah.
You're not just reading a biography.
Right.
You're engaging with it on a visceral level.
And that engagement is what keeps Into the Wild relevant all these years later.
Yeah.
It forces us to look inward, to confront our own desires and fears.
Yeah, we're all searching for something, right?
Right.
Meaning, purpose, connection. And Chris's story, however extreme, speaks to that universal longing.
It's a story that resonates on so many levels. The allure of the wild, the yearning for freedom, the complexities of family relationships, the fragility of life.
It's not a book that gives you easy answers. It's a book that challenges you to think for yourself, to wrestle with ambiguity, to embrace the messy, complicated truths about ourselves and the world we live in.
And in a world that's constantly trying to simplify things, to categorize everything into neat little boxes, that kind of challenge is incredibly valuable.
Absolutely. So if you haven't already, I highly recommend you dive into the Wild. You can find a link to purchase the book in our show notes.
It's a journey worth taking, even if it leads you to some uncomfortable places.
And while you're there, be sure to like this episode and subscribe to Mindful Moments for more deep dives into thought-provoking books and ideas. We're always exploring new terrain, and we'd love for you to join us. Thanks for listening.